I knew in so many ways I was broken, but I did have much to offer. Behind every successful man is a supportive woman. All of a sudden I heard like another like rumble, and the explosion, I mean, the gas really just within seconds cascaded down, and then there was like the secondary explosion within like milliseconds of each other. I got the chance to say goodbye and tell him I loved him, which I didn't get to do when he passed.
Are you on TikTok?
I am only because I'm retired, and I just find, while I'm eating my lunch, I watch stupid things.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to use Instagram. My kids just let me. They put me on Instagram, but they said I'm not allowed to go on it. So
You're not allowed to post.
Right.
You just watch.
Right.
They don't want.
I don't even know how to watch or do emails or anything.
They don't want your thoughts out. In the
Yeah,
public.
I'm trying to put stuff on OfferUp, and I put like some Star Wars people up there, and I'm like, how do I even follow if someone wants it?
They want your thoughts to be very filtered and not out for the public consumption.
Yeah, like when the food truck, they wouldn't let me on the food truck.
So everybody's at home right now with bated breath. Just like,
Oh, yeah. They were like, this isn't live, is it? I said, I don't know. And then my friend's like, oh, it's just audio. I said, no, this is a video. You can watch it on the video. No, podcast. And I'm like, I don't know. He sent me one that I was allowed to look at,
We do video podcasts now, man.
Yeah, no, which is awesome because, it's like even like when I go to a therapist, I find, I do on the webcam or whatever you call it, Zoom call. Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's fine, but you can't see the person's body language.
Yeah.
Like, especially like, because I go for, my 9/11 stuff, the PTSD. But, like earlier on in therapy, until we started to notice, like, I would like rub my thighs or I would start hacking a little bit. And when I'm talking about like suffocating, So those are things that I think you capture better face to face, almost like a text. And that's one of the things I will discuss when we speak about children, is the whole phone and social media and texting and lack of communicating face to face like we used to growing up. Yeah. You got something to say, you jumped on your bike, you knocked on your friend's door. Yeah.
And now it's very much, don't call me. Just send me a text.
Send me a text, right. And it's so much less personable too. And, we find out so many things through even social media, because, listen, most of the stuff I've learned through life's experience on the job, family occasions, and one of them is basically saying what you have to say, but saying it nicely. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. So,
Tom, I met you, I want to say it was 5 years ago. I know it was pre-COVID, when we were over at the other practice in Windermere. And back then when you came out there, your consultation, you wanted some dental work done, go through the motions, do the checkup, the whole thing. It wasn't until after I left the room that my office manager at the time came back to my office, and she had like tears in her eyes. And she told me a little bit about you. And I told her at the time, whatever you got to do to help him get what he wants, let's make it happen. And it's been one of the best relationships I've made with as. I mean, you've got my cell phone number. I'll text you. I've met your boys. Haven't met your daughter yet or your wife, but I'm sure I'll meet them. I would look forward to that. But every time you come in, man, it's just so much fun. It could be the simplest procedure, like something that would take me 20 minutes to do, and we block off like an hour and a half. and there's two reasons for that. One, you're gonna talk for a bit. It's impressive. I was just telling Jimmy here that you have managed to have full conversations with me while I'm numbing you, while I've got like a drill in your mouth. Like it just goes on and on and on. But you make everyone light up. Mercedes, she called me before we got started here. She tell Tom I said hi. How's he doing? So when we moved over here to Claremont, I was so happy that you found me. You know what I mean? I was
that personal service and that care and concern and that sense of brotherhood I felt with you and your staff. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
My wife's like, I don't understand. I mean, how does he know? I'm like, you just don't understand. I said, it's like a good family environment. I said, they all come in and we talk. I said, I've had different assistants and I inquire. I generally care and vice versa. I said, to the extent, I think the time before last, you guys pulled some kind of prank on me.
The whoopee cushion. The whoopee cushion. So Nellie was standing behind you, and I'm sitting there talking to you, and she's slowly releasing the gas.
Oh, God.
And it took like 5 seconds later, you're like, "Is that gas? Is that gas? You fuck."
Yes. Yeah, I know. The F bomb is just it's just part of a New York
it is. It's a
vocabulary
it's
up north, whatever you might say. Whereas down south they might say "bless your heart" or something.
Yeah, no,
you
we
know.
go right to the
We're a stinger.
Bless your heart.
You know.
One of my funniest memories with you is I had a dental assistant a few years ago. We were doing some work, and I had a dental assistant, and she was expecting, and I was trying to get her to transition a little bit away from the chair side because it's a lot on your body, and she was pretty far along, and no, doc, I'm good, I could do it, I can handle it. And so you're sitting in the chair and your back is to us, you're facing forward, and I walk in the room and the scanner's there, and the scanner, your teeth are up, and I'm looking at the scanner and I'm explaining to her like, hey, this is what I want you to do, and bam! All of a sudden, like, something hits my head. And what hit my head was her head.
Yeah.
And she's passed out on the floor. And I'm terrified. And I'm like yelling her name, smacking her face. And you don't see any of this. No. So you turn around and all you see is me yelling like, hey, and smacking the hell out of this poor girl.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And you're like, what the hell are you doing?
Thank God I was in a dentist's office, not open with all my insides opened up.
Yeah.
That would
have been something, man.
We had some funny experiences, even at Canine. Remember, I'm like, no, bro. I'm telling you, I wanted you to pull it out because I said, I don't know if I can handle if this thing ever agitates me.
We went through like 8 tubes of numbing.
Yeah,
and you were like,
insane.
nope. And I was like, Tom, are you sure? And you're like, nope, I'm feeling all of it, dude.
Yeah, unless my heart explodes, this thing's gonna really wreak havoc in the midst of whatever procedure we were getting done.
It was rough, man.
Yeah, that 1 tooth's crazy.
So you've got a daughter and 3 boys. I met your boys. Was it again shortly after COVID? They started a food truck.
Yes.
Right. It was like pastries and donuts and all that.
Yeah, the Waffle Bros.
The Waffle Bros.
Yeah, they kind of conceived that idea. My son Aaron, my oldest boy. Well, let me do the pecking order. My daughter Brianna's 32. Mm-hmm. She's married. She lives in Windermere. They moved to Florida. Probably about 2 years after we did. Okay. When we had moved here, which we'll speak about the move, my oldest son and my youngest son moved with us. My middle son, Daniel, was still in Buffalo University. So that's how we moved here. So during COVID, when that hit, Aaron, my oldest son, and my youngest son were home. Mm-hmm. And, they had been probably struggling to find work because in New York it's a little different. New York, you can walk into a deli, a pizza parlor, a lot of family-owned stuff that whether it's construction or any thing of that nature, and you can just say, hey, you're hiring 2-3 days a week, and you can do that. When we moved here to New York, they found it difficult because there's a lot of hospitality, which brings in a lot of corporate chains, and everything's, email us, send us your resume. And so there's a less personal, again, the face-to-face, where you could see the contents of the person, I guess is the word, So they were struggling with that. They finally both found jobs, and then all of a sudden COVID, they shut everything down. Yeah. But they were sitting home making money. Between the government was given 600 and something, I don't know off the top of my head. Yeah. And then they were getting in New York unemployment, which is more than the Florida. So they were pulling in almost $800 and something a week. And they're like, this is crazy. Who's going to want to go back to work making this kind of money?
Exactly.
And I went, sadly, that's going to be a situation that's going to...
It did become an issue.
An issue, exactly. So they sat around, and my son Aaron had worked... in New York, how we have the feast, whether it's at the Knights of Columbus, the community church, the Italian feast. He worked with some friends and family that had like Zeppeli trucks and stuff like that. And he also knew his friend's brother had a waffle truck. And he's like, that's always been a good thing. So, he had reached out. So he took the initiative and he reached out, and I was very proud of the both of them because they, in their own, said, yo, let's do something. Let's make use of this time because we're sitting here.
It would have been easy to just sit home and collect the checks.
Right. And they ended up, said, hey, let's do this Waffle Brothers thing. Let's do a waffle truck.
Yeah.
And, they approached me with it. And, I was like, yeah, I'm down with it. Tell me what you got going on. And they sat, in the afternoon, to this, to that. And they formulated a business plan. And, we started looking for a truck. So I was like a silent partner.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was more than happy to watch them. And it worked out being really a awesome experience, And believe me, it's like anything in the food business. It's you're married to it.
Oh, yeah.
So we had my wife making the dough with her friend Jen, their Aunt Jen, we call, the family to us. And, we had our arguments back. So the good, the bad, the ugly. But through it all, we did these events, and family was on the truck working, serving. My grandsons, my grandkids were, scooping ice cream.
Complete family business.
Yeah. So it was nice. And it lasted up until the point where COVID had ended. Yeah. And then they were called back to their old jobs at a bigger capacity. Yeah. Because as you know, during COVID, the ditch digger became the operator in a backhoe because there was people, again, sitting home, collecting money, saying, hey, why should I if I can? And that created opportunity. And like the Romans would say, when there's blood on the street, there's money to be made. Yeah. It created opportunities for those who wouldn't have those opportunities to step up and step into something different, something new. The ability to reinvent yourself. Yeah. If you wanted to. And that allowed for, like I said, the opportunity. And they took this opportunity, and now they have that on their resume.
And successful people do that, right? Where others see problems and obstacles, successful people tend to see possibilities and solutions. But I think that speaks a lot to how you raise them, because it's very easy, like we said earlier, to, hey, I'm making more money not working. Why would I now put the effort into a business plan and finding a truck? And they turned out to be really damn good at it. Those are some really good donuts, man. So I think that speaks a little bit to the background in terms of how you raise them. You're not a millennial dad, right?
No.
Yeah, I'm a millennial dad. One of the buzz phrases that we have in my generation is gentle parenting, right? And that means different things to different people. I see some laughter there. What was your parenting style like with the boys and with your daughter?
Well, listen, mine was cultivated basically on my experiences in life, which, sadly, trauma has the ability to make or break people. Mm-hmm. I've been through, because I've spoken to you, many situations, whether it's an addiction, overconsumption of whether it be alcohol, drugs, just being around the bad people. My mother used to say, sleep with dogs, you wake up with fleas. That doesn't just apply to women. It applies to the company you keep. Sure. And it's like, it's known that, if you want to be successful, you stay around successful people. Right. The most successful person is usually the quietest one in the room. Mm-hmm. Hence, I'm probably not the most successful out of my friend group. But you know what? I'm the one that stirs and gets, I'm the lampshade guy, the guy that wants to be invited, that gets invited because of that. But, which doesn't sit always well with my wife. But I went off on a segue. The question was,
so the way that you raised your boys?
Oh, the way I raised my boys. Well, I came from a larger family, and we didn't know it, but we didn't have money. But we never knew it as kids. I surely saw it by having my other friends, whose dad worked for Nabisco, whose dad worked for Rockefeller Center as a plant engineer facilities. And, so they always had the nice bikes, the nice school, the piano lessons, the this and that. And we grew up in a very modest, middle-class family neighborhood on Long Island. Long Island at the time when I grew up was a lot of still, woods and farms and stuff like that. But people were moving from the five boroughs into Long Island, and they were moving from the five boroughs up into upstate New York to kind of give their families a little more room and a little less chaos, So when I grew up, I do remember my dad always working 2 jobs. I remember my mom working a job. And I do remember, there was 8 of us. So I do remember my oldest sister, Pat, who's like a second mother to me, who I've always went to. She was the oldest. She looked over us, and we used to call her Gestapo because, she was the tyrant at times. Yeah. And then there's other times where she'd be upstairs doing her schoolwork or reading a book, where we'd be raising Cain downstairs, throwing crayons at each other and, leaving marks on the wall. And, then my dad would have us all painting. So it was more hard knocks. But the long and short of it, my dad passed away when I was 17. 2 months out of high school. I was planning on going into the Navy. I had taken the ASVAB and all that stuff. But I was able to, decline out of that because I had 2 brothers who were in the Air Force at the time. And I was the oldest boy home at the time. And sometimes, I look back on that and, I kind of say, wow, what would that have been like? But then I also, I come right back to, I'm right where I should be, and I'm glad and grateful for where I am. But as far as raising my kids, my dad was from that era of men that been through war, came home from war, raised a family, came home and just wanted peace. No. You know what I mean? No. They were. My dad was never actually in the war, but he was away in I think it was Germany, where they were doing like the sick people would come and the supplies would come. That was during the Korean War, not the Second World War. Okay. But, a lot of my uncles fought in the Second World War. So anytime we had like a family gathering, the men were with the men, and they sat on the side of the garage with the keg of beer and smoking cigarettes, and and they were just left in a different esteem, and the women looked after the kids and put the food out and took the food in, and it was so for me it was I guess more of an old-fashioned kind of more traditional, yes, yeah, and it seemed to work. I remember my parents, my dad would take us all to church on Sunday. So, and I'm saying this to say this is my example up until I was 17. He would take us all to church, and, all the church people, the men of the church, whether they were ushers or just neighborhood guys, would go to the bar after church, and the kids would all sit down in the booths, and we'd have a soda with a cherry, maybe a bag of potato chips we split between the 4 of us, and the men would have a drink and a shot, and then they'd go home. It was I don't know what it was about that, but that's what they did. Yeah, because Sunday everything was closed when I was growing up. Because I remember my mother saying, "James, make sure you gas up the car." Because, I have work Monday morning early.
You won't be able to get it on Sunday.
Nothing was open. I think 7-Eleven was the very first thing that even opened up on Sundays. So, but he would come home, and I remember my mother would have music on the radio in the kitchen, cooking dinner. The youngest would be home. Excuse me, I have a nasal drip, but and he would start dancing with her. in the kitchen, and we'd all laugh. And, you think it's something like that, like Ozzie and Harriet.
Yeah.
But then there was other times, let's be honest, my father would come home twisted, you know, from drinking, and my mother was like, all right, James, go to bed, and this was like not an everyday occurrence, but as a child, I'm like, as I got older, going, wow, this poor guy, working 2 jobs, barely gets to see his family. Sunday's his day with his family. So that was the structure I remember. But I also was like very sympathetic, going, this poor guy, I mean, it's not easy, and I knew it was difficult. We always had cars that broke down. Always. We never had a new car. Never. My Uncle Bill owned an auto shop, and he would always, once in a while, hey, Jim, here's a good car, ba, 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 ba. So I learned to understand that, you don't need to have it all to have it all.
Sure.
And my dad raised us is like, listen, this is in here is where my treasure lies. This is all I need. Because once I asked him, why do you work so hard? My mom and him had 10 kids, but two. The very first one had passed away like a year and a half old of a brain tumor, and then they had lost one in between the last and third child, from the bottom.
So you grew up with 8.
But I grew up with 8. Yeah. And I said, why'd you have so many kids? And he said, I don't know. I didn't know which one to return. And after that, I didn't question that anymore. I'm like, as long as you keep me around.
They just kept coming.
Yeah, he was an Irish Catholic. And, the Pope was like, the rhythm method. Mm. And my dad had rhythm. I saw him dancing. But apparently he just,
Was your father somebody that you could easily talk to? Or I asked because there was that, like my father was this way, this previous generation of men, where it was kind of harder to talk to them. I mean, they had gone through so many things in their lives.
Absolutely.
That,
closed.
The idea, and the idea of coming to them and saying like, I'm sad because this girl doesn't like me, or whatever problem you're going through as a teenager. I mean, this is somebody that had been in theaters of war, as somebody working 2 jobs and going through all their struggles. And I think men just didn't, even to this day, there's a lot of men that we don't talk, we don't get our emotions.
Yeah. My dad, if my dad he was probably more apt to talk to my older brothers because they were a little older. Mm-hmm. I do recall my dad, when my brothers went into the military, corresponding with them through the mail, because that's how you did it back then. Yeah. And, no, he was definitely one that would definitely talk to you. Like when I was a kid growing up, I had whatever you want to call it, hypertension or hyperactive. Mm-hmm. I was that kid. I mean, honestly, I could say this, Miss Hosking, you passed away already, so you can't be brought up on any charges. But in 3rd grade, she tied me to a chair, and tape my legs to the legs of the chair, tape my body around,
stay still,
and put something in my mouth in the middle of the class to get me to sit still. But again, that leads from a trauma of a loss of a friend in 3rd grade. Mm-hmm. So at that point, I might have been acting out, who knows. Yeah. Shortly after that, I also...
That's a very different technique than what they use nowadays.
Yeah. I remember as a kid, standing in the corner, facing the corner, they embarrass you that way.
I remember that too. Or the ruler over the knuckles.
Yeah, no, we never did Catholic school.
Yeah, I got that. Go kneel in a thing of rice.
Right.
Yeah, dude. Oh man.
Yeah. So as far as parentinghood, what I got from my father was, basically, church. We went to church every Sunday. Mm-hmm. You had to pay attention. Sometimes he'd quiz you to see if you were paying attention, and if you weren't, he sent you up in your room till dinner. My brother Joseph, who was my older brother, he was kind of like my compass as to what to do and not do, because he seemed to be always punished every weekend. And
so you knew, don't do this.
Yeah. He got the belt a lot. It was like, all right, well, okay,
Don't want that.
Yeah, no. And he just turned 65. God bless him. He just had a heart transplant. So But you know, we always used to, my Aunt Virginia and my Aunt June and everybody used to come over our house because, you know, at the time I guess we had the pool and the most kids.
Yeah.
Uh, Everyone gathered there on Saturdays, at least the women with the kids. And we would go from week to week. Sometimes we'd do the Gong Show, which was a show on TV where people put up acts. So we would constantly, and we always joke about this, we always reminisce, you know, we would think of acts, right? Next week we're going to do Donnie and Marie. My, you know, cousin Dawn and my brother Joseph would do Captain and Tennille, and, you know, just... And we literally hang back in the day. They had the old metal garbage cans and we'd hang a metal garbage lid, and my aunts would sit. I mean, we would just laugh. They would laugh, spit out coffee, and you know, trying to gong the gong.
Yeah.
And one of the aunts would grab the arms, and you know, so it was just that's the environment we grew up in. We made the best of whatever we had.
Yeah.
You know, we'd play in the dirt. You know, we didn't.
Yeah.
You know,
You didn't realize what you didn't have.
right?
Because
We
you were
had
so
a coat
focused on what
hanger
you
in
did
my
have.
mother's yarn. You know, and we'd have, you know, my sister's Barbie doll, and we'd slide it from the fence to a stake in the ground, like it was like, you know, like dun 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 dun. Meanwhile, it's Barbie, you know. And then we finally got a GI Joe. But raising my kids, getting back to that, well, honestly, you know, I always contribute that to my wife, but you know, it's definitely co-parenting, you know. But she was definitely, I've always said, a gift from God. I told you that you know, I prayed for her, and you know, because you know, I knew in so many ways I was broken, but I did have much to offer, and you know, behind every successful man is a supportive woman, and success is measured in many different levels, you know, and my success really mainly is in my peace and my joy. That's really my compass, because that means more to me than anything.
I saw on your Facebook, I think at your last anniversary, how long have you guys been married now?
33 years.
33 years. I saw the wedding picture, full head of hair on you.
Full head of hair, bro.
It all made its way down here.
Yeah, and I
Slid
had
off.
the mullet going somehow.
It
Yeah.
was impressive. How'd you meet Beth?
Funny enough, well, if I can just backtrack a little bit. After my dad passed away, I kind of like took the role of, which I didn't have to, of, you know, acting, you know, and I think as the oldest, that's what you do, you know, thinking, you know, I had to cut the grass, I had to this, I had to, you know, the man of the house thing, even though it wasn't really like that. I just took it upon myself. And I ended up being, my kid brother was in Cub Scouts at the time. He was like maybe 6, 7, maybe. And when my dad passed, he was 5. And I would take him to the Cub Scout things. And shortly after that, the Cub Scout leader quit because the kids are just running around. And I'm like, well,
It's a lot to do with.
yeah, it's crazy. So I said, listen, if you guys want, I'll be the den mother or whatever you want to call me.
They let you be in charge of all the kids.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
boy.
well, I was in the Scouts because of my 2 older brothers, and I believe one of them, I know one of them's an Eagle Scout, which is the highest honor, and they went into the military. So I did this, and long and short of it, during all of this, after my dad passed away, I had continued going to church, and I love church. I love God. I love, you know, just the whole thought of God and how he just unconditionally loves you as you are, you know, and it was, again, a compass for me. And so I was raised a Catholic, so I went from St. Cyril's, and then I didn't feel what I felt because now my family, my dad's gone, and who's in the military, who got married, yada, yada. And I didn't feel like that presence that I felt, that security when my dad was there, not knowing that security came from my dad, you know, and also God. I'm not taking that, you know. And so I said, well, you know, I don't feel it here. So I went to St. Matthew's. Then I went to Our Lady of Lourdes. Long and short, I went back and forth to about 5 different churches, got involved with my friend Joe Colombo's friend church in Our Lady of Lourdes and a youth group. And, you know, I was 17, 18 at the time. 17. Yeah, 17. And it just wasn't. And all of a sudden, I remembered a church, non-denominational church, that started as a small Bible study around the corner from our house, and it grew so big. It just grew. It just went, and there were cars parking up and down the blocks, and the neighbors were getting so angry, trying to town to get.
Really?
And I remember a petition coming to the house and them saying, these people are parking in the street. There's drug addicts, and there's this and that. And so my father turned around and he went, "Excuse me?" He's like, "Yeah, these people, they're ex-criminals, drug addicts." He goes, "And they're going to church?" He's like, "That's a bad thing?"
Yeah, sounds like a win for society.
So
right?
I remember hearing this going, wow, that's
Check
a
that place
valid,
out.
yeah. So I had snuck down there one Sunday after going to we went to the 11, and I went down the basement, which was literally right around the corner. And I remember the music, bam, 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 people just clapping, everyone excited and happy. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. I felt like a really good vibe. So I remembered that. So I was like, I'm going to go to that church, which now had went from, a single lobby church. Then they had grown and put on another extension. So it had flourished. Okay. So they were doing something right. So I said, all right, I'm going to go there. So I remember one Friday night I pulled up and I pulled out. I went home and I cried. I mean, this is how much I needed to feel the peace, because I was broken. I was lost as a 17, 18-year-old person.
Just lost your dad.
And I knew God would fix me, but I couldn't find him in myself because I didn't have enough of God in me to do that. So I went home and I cried and I went, God, I'm such a wimp. I said, all I had to do was go up the stairs. You got to make a way for me. Help me out. So the next time at Cub Scouts, this woman's talking. It was around Christmas. It might have been around Christmas time. She was talking about upper room, and she goes to upper room church and this and that. And I lunged out and I went, "You go to upper room?" She's like, yeah. I said, you got to take me there. I said, what service do you go to? What mass do you go to? Whatever I said. And she's like, what? I said, I'll bring bagels over. I'll bring orange juice over. And this. I said, and that's what I did. I met her at her house on Sunday and had bagels with her family. And I walked into church. And I kid you not. I mean, it was just a wave that came over me. And I felt all this weight just drop. And I was like, wow, that's heavy, man. That's heavy. And I listened to the service, and they were preaching right from the Bible. They had, a little more charisma than a Catholic church, because Catholic church is very structured. Yeah. Every Easter, But, and I'm not knocking that. That's
my whole family's Catholic.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Listen. I don't care what religion you are, as long as you're kind to people.
For sure.
That's it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the long and short of it was, so I ended up going to this church, and I hate to break your segue, but I'm gonna go and say the faithfulness of God. That's one of the things I saw in that. Yeah. And then secondly, so now I'm going to this church. I'm getting excited now. I mean, Fridays, I used to rush to the bar. Now I'm telling my friend Tommy, who works for me, he's been my friend since kindergarten, Tommy Daniello, still my friend, best friend. And I said, yo, we got to finish up. I got to get to church on Friday, And Friday night was just praise and worship. It was just, it was totally awesome. So now I'm there, and I'm like, now I'm questioning, is this the path that I should follow, because I was raised a Catholic? Am I doing something wrong? You know what I mean? Yeah. So again, I said, Lord, just, give me a sign. And I don't know if it was that night. It was probably that night. I had a dream. I'm in like the third row, the band's cranking out, playing music. I'm praising the Lord and thanking God, just the spirit of gratitude. And I look over, there's my dad. Now my dad's been passed away.
Yeah.
You know, and I look over and I'm like, wow. And I went, good, huh? And he's like, yeah, it's good, you know? And I was like, yeah, right? You like it? Yeah. So we went through the whole service praising God and this and that. Then the service ends. He's like, all right, I got to go. And I said, well, I'm going too, you know? And he goes, no, I have to go. And I got the chance to say goodbye and tell him I loved him, which I didn't get to do when he passed. So, again, nothing short of a miracle, you know. And how I met my wife was the same way. You know, I was just, I was involved with the church. I was trying to do the right thing. You know, I stumbled quite a few times, you know, but we're all sinners saved by grace, you know. So I ended up, again, you know, I was just lonely. I just wanted a companion. I was sick of, you know, I was in, if you want to call it in the world, but I was part of the world, the dating scene. And, you know, listen, I can go on and on and on. It's just, you know, people just use people. Let's put it to you that way. You know what I mean? I never threw love around because I wanted to know what love is, you know. Yeah. I didn't watch soap operas, so, you know, I didn't have this, you know, false idea of what love is. I wanted substance, you know.
Something real.
Yeah, something very real. I wanted someone. So I ended up just crying out to God, you know, and saying, listen, you know, I'm preparing my heart to love you as I'm learning to love you more and more. And, you know, you watch over me, you know, prepare a woman for me while I'm in the midst of doing what I'm doing and walking with you and trying to do the right thing. You know, prepare someone for me to love me and to help me. And I, in return, will love her with all that I have. And, you know, there was a girl I was interested in, you know, a natural eye. You know, our first reaction is always, you know, oh, she's good looking. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, that's how it works. You're not going to go for, you know, someone, you know, old. I'm just going to leave it at that. Yeah. So I went, oh, she's nice.
You find out the personality.
Yeah. So I ended up going on a, I don't know if it was a youth retreat but a ski trip. And I had taken my brother Michael, because my brother Michael was like my mini-me. He went everywhere with me because he was little and he needed looking after. And it was with the church, and the one girl that I was looking at, you know, she was talking to everyone. And I went, yeah, that's not going to work because I talk to everybody. No one's going to invite us anywhere.
Somebody's got to be a stop here.
Yeah. You know, opposites attract. And so I just kind of was like, I was a little discouraged. And I was like, all right, maybe that's not the one. No harm, no foul. No. And I think it was the next night, I'm sitting having dinner around the table, and I get spaghetti sauce on my shirt. And the girl across the table says, oh, do you have a shirt under there? I'll take that back to my room and wash it if you want so it doesn't stain. And I went, and now I didn't think anything of it. And I went, now that's a good woman. You know? Now, I wasn't allowed back to her room.
Who's going to take care of me.
Yeah, I wasn't allowed back to her room. It was, you know, kind of like not a, you know, it's very frowned upon. But I was like, yeah, I absolutely do. And, you know, with that, you know, next day, you know, I was trying to show her how to ski. And her youngest sister was there, Denise. She wanted me to say her name. She goes, make sure you get my
Denise,
name in there.
This is your shout out. Denise.
Yeah, no, but my sister, her sister Denise is very much my sister. Yeah. In every sense of it. You know, I love her. She's been a great help to me. Yeah. And she knows in so many ways how. Yeah, you know, to the point where I'm teaching and we get down to the hill and she falls and I fall on top of her, but in such a way that my crotch is over her face, and I'm like trying not to and I'm trying to figure out how to knock my one ski off so I can roll and get off. And I'm like, here we are, good Christian people. And
Making
I'm
a
like,
great impression.
yeah, I'm like, just laughing. And I remember her calling her mom to ask if she could stay another day because some people were staying an extra day, and we were able to. We had supervision and stuff through the church, and yeah, I remember coming home and this woman, friend of the family, Sue Smith, Sue Horton. And I ran to her house because her husband, Wayne, great guy, this guy, Wayne Smith, he's just a very calming, soothing, but very spiritual, but yet intelligent, but humble is the best word. He's got such a humble spirit. And that's the kind of people I try to allow to mentor me, or at least
be close to your heart.
You're right, be close to my heart. And I said, Sue, I met this girl, this, that, and the other thing. He's like, well, ask her out. I was like, I never really asked. I picked up girls at bars. Yeah. I didn't know how to do it the right way. What's the right way, So I asked her for, I think I asked her, just to go to coffee. And, we went to the diner and, here I am, as always, talking. And she always references this and laughs about it. And when the food came, I stopped talking. And she was like...
You just gobbled it up?
She's like, uh-oh, what do I do? But that's the way we were raised, too, with all those kids. We didn't, just at the table.
You talk to when someone's going to take your food.
Right. It was after, It was after the meal was done. Who cleaned the table off, who washed the dishes, then we had, dessert, whether it was, my dad made Jell-O or tapioca, whatever, and then we sat around the table and we talked. So when she saw that, she was like, oh God. And she laughs to this day because once the food comes, it's like, yeah, it's, I don't know.
That reminds me of my grandfather. My grandfather could talk forever. But 10 minutes before the plate was supposed to be on the table with his food, he would sit down at the table and just wait in silence. And then the minute, you could have the whole family over, but the minute that plate is on his table, man, he's just going and going. And
yeah.
You're looking at him like, dude, take a breath. Like, you're going to choke.
Well, even when we have company over, especially when I was working, I mean, I'm not working. I'm disabled now because of some of my illnesses. But when we have company over, my wife, I'll either fix my plate, more so she'll just fix a plate now that the kids are older before she do the kids, and I'd make my own plate and I'd eat. And, if we had company, people were like, they make their plate and they wait for her to sit down. I said, yeah, you wait for her to sit down, your food's going to be ice cold. I said, her mother was the same way,
hosting. She's focused on hosting.
Yeah. I said, listen, I'm eating it while it's hot. I paid for this. I'm at least going to enjoy it, Yeah, you can microwave it, but nothing like out of the oven or off the stove, piping hot. But, no, my Beth is, she's been a blessing in so many aspects of my life, I mean, she definitely got the raw end of the deal. Let me tell you something. I definitely, when they say you married up.
Married up.
And when I say married up, listen, her family didn't come from much either. No. But you know what? I remember the first time walking into that house. I mean,
to meet her parents.
To meet her parents, having dinner. I mean, you want to just talk about love and warmth, and it was incredible. It was incredible. And we joke about it. They sat in, it's central islip, in a small kitchen with a round table, and it was her mom, her dad, her her 4 siblings, so there was 5 of them, and me, and her youngest brother Josh, who was probably like maybe 12 at the time, sat in a high chair without the tray on it, off to the side just to have it, and it was like, and it was okay. It was normal. To me, that was like, that's cool, man. That's cool.
The close-knit family.
Right.
You grew up in a close-knit family.
Yeah. And and I don't remember this, but Beth said that we passed around the dish towel as a napkin. Because, I mean, I never grew up with tissues or paper towels.
Like, what are you, like a zillionaire?
Yeah. I didn't. Tissues, toilet paper was I remember
luxury.
when I got a cold, I remember using toilet paper, and everyone's nose in my house.
Burned.
I was chapped and red, and you know what I'm saying? So you go to my house now, bro, there's tissues, boxes
you
everywhere.
splurge on it.
Yeah, it's like, you know, to me, that's a luxury, bro. You know, it's like, even paper towels, they laugh at me, you know, our friend Jen, or even Denise will come and take 3 paper towels and pick up a spill. I'm like, yo, it's water. That's what a sponge is for.
So you're the guy during COVID that gobbled up all the toilet
No.
paper. That's where all the toilet paper
no, because
went.
you know how they took them from this size to that
To this
size?
size. They were
That's
like
not
rationing
good
them.
enough for me. I still cut them in half. I'll hand one to my son Dave and one to me.
But double ply at least. Like, I hope.
Just fold it, you know. but yeah, as far as that's how I met Beth, through church.
She seems like she's been really like the rock of the family.
Oh, she's definitely the glue. Yeah, bro. I put her through hell. God, I don't even know how she stayed with me as long as she did. In fact, you know, we did go through a period shortly after 9/11. You know, that I had, you know, kind of withdrawn, and then, you know, a lot of things triggered me, and you know, it wasn't me. Yeah. You know, I still went to work, did my thing, and through all of my drinking and drugs, I went to work every day because that was my job. Yeah. I still did my job.
Provide for your family.
I was just trying to numb, you know, kind of numb it. And
so the day I met you, that was what brought tears to my office manager's eyes. That day was you know, you've been through some trauma, and that day in particular, you were there.
Yeah, no, I was there. I mean, we had, my mother had been sick, to just back up a little bit. And I'll get through this as much as I can. There was times I couldn't talk about it. And through therapy, it's helped me. But some new stone is always turned over, because there was so much in that day and the days and months to follow that it's hard to really encapsulate it in one conversation. Sure. But the long and short of it, I was checking up on my mother, who had been sick, and I called my sister Pat. My brother-in-law Jimmy picked up the phone, and he said, "Yo, bro, where are you?" You know, he's like, "Mom's still all right." He's like, "Yo, where are you?" I said, "I'm downtown." He's like, "Yeah, some kind of boiler explosion at the Trade Center." And like within seconds, he turned around and he said, "Oh no, it's a plane." So I went, "A plane?" I said, "It's a beautiful day." I remember the day.
Sunny day, Tuesday.
Beautiful breeze, puffy clouds, blue sky. He said, "It's a plane." And I said, "Oh man, that's crazy." I said, you know, let me head out on the street and see what's going on. I was in a sub-cellar, probably about, at that time, maybe 4 blocks away, but directly, you know, like there's the 2 towers and here's the building I was in. But I was in a sub-cellar and in a bank vault. I mean, a massive bank vault. And I used to do office furniture, so that's where we kept our swing material. They used to keep gold there, but they had built the Federal Reserve off of Nassau, so all the gold was moved there. And I went out on the street, between the 2 buildings, CMP 1 and CMP 2, Chase Manhattan Plaza. And, you know, there's papers all on the floor, stuff floating in the air. And I look up and there's a big gaping hole in the building. I was like, holy crap. And people were just like looking up. And, you know, I mean, clear as day, you can see people hanging out the windows, you know, waving. So it was kind of surreal. I'm like, oh my God, these poor people. And it was the people above where the hit was that were really like in trouble, because the smoke was just bellowing up, but pieces of the facade had started burning at that point and falling off. And still debris floating, and I can recall, the first jumper. Whether it was the first jumper, but the first one that I noticed, which I believe it was, because I have a newspaper with the picture of him on there. Me and my friend Andre was standing there, and I was like, what the hell is that? About 40 stories down, you could see it a little better. And it was a jumper, and I would say within a few seconds from that, I mean, there were just people just started jumping hand in hand, so, in my head, I'm like, what the hell would possess someone, so there was a barrage of emotions behind that, when other people on the street started noticing it, it was pretty crazy, so, I mean, there's a constant, I guess, sirens blaring and everywhere. I mean, if you ever been to New York, I mean, they go over the top with the sirens because there's a lot of pedestrian traffic, and it was just everywhere. I mean, people were coming from everywhere at that point. EMS, fire trucks, federal vehicles, police cars. They were just swarming the place. So we started walking that way, me and Andre,
Towards
because I was always taught in the trades, evacuation, at least first aid to the extent of, elevate, whatever. I didn't know what I could do, crowd control. My first reaction was, holy crap, let's go help, because all these personnel vehicles. So as we were walking there, you'd see the firemen looking up, getting out of their trucks because they were backed up so far. Getting out of their trucks, suiting up, looking up, and a lot of them were young guys. There were old guys there too, but the young guys were just probably like, who knows? Holy shit! I just started 2 weeks ago. What the hell is, how do you fight something like that, right? Yeah, and you could see the terror, and within seconds, all of a sudden I heard like another rumble, and because I was close up, the buildings are like this. It wasn't until it passed behind the one building and went directly into the second tower and almost out the other end. And the explosion, I mean, the gas really just within seconds cascaded down, and then there was like this secondary explosion within like milliseconds of each other, the impact and then the secondary explosion. And the heat of that and the burst of that and the explosion, we felt that on the street. I did. I felt it, and at that point, I went, yeah, this is more than just a plane hitting.
Yeah.
So, I turned away. I said, and not so much that this is above my pay grade or anything. I was like, I don't know what the hell's going on. I got to get to safety, because my main concern was getting home to my family. That was my first priority. In anything, that's my priority. And, so I went back to the bank vault where I was, and I was 3 stories under. And I'll give you the short version, but, and as I'm waiting there, now mind you, after the first plane hit, you couldn't make phone calls.
Right.
Because it was saying private restricted. Yeah. At least on my phone, I had an old not an old, but it was a flip phone, which was modern back then. And so I went into the sub-cellar where I had the communications guy filter in a phone for me, at a small expense. And even that wasn't working. So I was like, what the hell's going on?
I think they had cut all the communication.
Yeah, so as I'm waiting and waiting, all of a sudden everything starts shaking. But it was only for about, I don't know, maybe 5-10 seconds. It seemed long, but it was quick. And I was like, what the hell? And I thought it was the building I was in now just got hit because, again, nobody knew what the hell was going on. So I said, I got to get the hell out of here. So I run down the hall. Now I'm 3 floors below street level. And I get in the elevator and I press the button. As it's closing, I'm like, what the hell am I doing? You're never getting in an elevator during a fire. You know, but I wasn't thinking. So at that second, I had to reset and say, yo, you got to pull it together. Whatever's it's going to be, it's going to be, you know. And when the door opened, you know, there was just people in the lobby freaking out. And, you know, one of my night terrors, which I don't have night terrors anymore, thank God, was the elevator opening up and just flames engulfing me. So that took
time.
Yeah, but so people were like freaking out, you know, and I ended up, you know, looking at the facade, which is all glass, and you couldn't even see out of it. And I knew there was scaffolding outside of there because they were doing work on the facade, so they protect, like in the city, the sidewalks and everything. I couldn't even see the scaffolding, which was probably like 6 inches from the building. The first tier. Yeah, because so I said, what happened? What happened? They said, it fell. I said, well, what fell? And they were like, the building. And I'm like, what? So, you know, again, did fall this way, did fall that way.
Just crumbled straight down.
Right.
That was the shaking that you felt.
Yeah, and so then the security guard's like, listen, you people got to get down, you know, get downstairs. And I was like, screw this, you know, I'm not going down. I'm getting the hell out of here, you know. So probably within a few seconds, all of a sudden, boom, one hand on the window, another hand on the window. So I went to the door to open it up. And the way the door opened, I guess because the tower fell over here, the plume or whatever they call it was coming that way. You know, this is a matter of seconds. Right. You know what I mean? I literally ran down the hall, pressed the elevator, boom, went up 3 floors, opened the thing. So maybe a minute or two passed by, if that, and then another minute or two. So So I kind of like put a little bit into it to open the door. It didn't open as freely as I expected it, but I had like a golf shirt on that the company gave me. And right away, boom, this whole mass of debris, mostly, you know, particles, I mean, just started choking me. And I started putting up, you know, and I had a V-neck, so I had to bring it up even higher, but it kept falling. And I started screaming, come this way, come this way, come this way. And, you know, I heard one person say, we can't see you, you know. And I said, listen to my voice. As I'm doing this, I'm picking it up, pulling it down, picking it up, you know, holding the door, picking it up, pulling it down because it was coming this way. And about 4 or 5 people crawled in there, hacking their brains out. I mean, to the point where I was on all fours. I couldn't breathe. I thought, this is it, you know, my last breath. I mean, I don't know if you ever did the cinnamon challenge. Well, it was way worse than that. Yeah. And I was like, whatever, you know. And all of a sudden, someone, like, gave me water, and I started, like, goggling, spitting, to the point where I had some saliva. You know, I mean, my mouth was full of, like, just dust and dirt and my throat. I mean, so after that, I was able again to compose myself, and I ransacked the kiosk in the lobby because what had happened was, I turned around after I got my wits about me, and the whole lobby was covered with soot, debris. Not debris like heavy debris, soot.
So
the particles. And people were choking now. And I'm like, holy shit. So I immediately gave people water, and I said to the guy next to me, I said, hand these out, and anything, orange juice. I said, don't swallow, because, I said, spit it out, spit it out. So everyone just started helping each other, it was like a collective kind of thing. And people were doing it, passing their bottles, whatever they had left. And then after the soot in the lobby cleared, I said, I'm getting the hell out of here. Once this clears, and a few people waited, and I said, listen, I'm going to the water. At least I know the breeze off the water. I'll have some fresh air. And, I waited for the dust to settle enough that I could at least see the second tier of scaffolding, not the one closest to the building. So I did that. I remember probably about 12 people. Oh, and a funny story, a little segment. It's not really funny, but on the 10-year anniversary of 9/11, now, my family has a habit of just staying in contact with everyone's exes. It's just the way it is. Whether it was a family reunion, my mother invited one of my ex-girlfriends while I had my new girlfriend, whatever. So long and short of it, on Facebook, an old girlfriend of mine, Denise D'Antonio, writes on Facebook, and I'd like to thank, on this 10-year anniversary, my guardian angel, Tom Mylott, who saved me and got me to safety, and I was able to get home. So my wife, Beth, at the time, said, what the hell is this? And I went, what are you talking about? She's like, this. And she shows me, and I read it, I was like, oh, yeah. She went, oh, yeah? I went, yeah. I mean, what do I tell you? So she was like, why was she there? I said, I don't know. I think she works for a Deutsche Bank or something. She happened to be in that lobby. What do you want me to tell you?
Save everyone, leave her behind.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, she's like, how come you never told me? I said, well, if you thought that was the highlight of my day, hey, guess who I ran into during a terrorist attack?
The fog was so, if you could even see it was her.
In fact, God love her, but I could understand where she came from. I said, hon, you don't understand. It wasn't a blessing. Trust me. While I'm trying to collect my thoughts and get the hell out of here, I said she was in her full Italian panic mode. Oh, my God, oh, my God.
Yeah.
I said, I was to the point where I wanted to shake her and slap her a few times. Like,
and in your mind, you're somewhere like, I got to tell Beth about this.
Yeah. In fact, she was one of the few 12 or so people that followed me to the water. And when we got there, they were taking ferries to Hoboken, Long Island City. I said, nope. I'm waiting for Long Island, Glen Cove. And she's like, I'm going here. I'm like, see you later. Yeah. I made sure she got on the boat, only out of concern, just respect, the right thing to do. But, so we had, once the smoke had cleared, the soot had cleared, we had started walking. No. And as I'm opening the door, all of a sudden you hear, and when I tell you, I probably knocked about 5 people behind me down getting back into that building. It happened to be the fighters from Langley that weren't even armed. So they, the one woman was ready to go right into it.
Yeah. That day, just hearing it and the way that you can vividly remember all of it, because it's something you'll never be able to, it's indelible in your mind. Obviously, that's something that takes a toll on you, which you've alluded to. It changed you in a lot of ways until you came to the realization, like, I need help. I got to move. I don't know if you ever moved past it, but I got to learn to cope with it. How did it change you right after that? And you mentioned, Beth standing by you while you were struggling with that.
Yeah, I didn't really know the level of, I guess, trauma of it. You know, I dealt with trauma before in my life, on not on quite a severe level, but different level, but it's still very effective. I kind of shelved it. You know, I kind of put it on the shelf as best I can. But it always seemed to rear its ugly head, especially working in Manhattan in heavy construction. I constantly dealt with sirens, which triggered, and I had a short fuse. You know, as calm as I am now, you know, I'm not boasting about it, but I was probably, on the level of some kind of deranged, Jekyll and Hyde, especially when it came to like something like triggering me. Yeah, I remember throwing stuff on the job after, a bunch of sirens, woo, 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 and all of a sudden I panic. Or if I'm on one floor above the build and the crane turns around and drops a load of steel on the top deck, and all of a sudden it's like, boom. I'd go from 0 to 60. I mean, to the point where, God bless them. I had some good guys at work that looked after me, and we looked after each other. And I just flip out, whether it was throwing a hammer across the floor and cursing someone out, and they'd be like, yo, chill. And they'd say, yo, why don't you go down, have a smoke, grab a cup of coffee. At one point we had like a cemetery or a church across the street on one of the builds, and he's like, yo, why don't you, go into church, get a little, calm down, come back, So they knew that part of it. And then the physical started kicking in with, my breathing and, so I was limited, so if we had to climb stairs or, they knew. I mean, the union has a rule anyway. You do a flight of stairs, wait 30 seconds, so the union always looked after you as far as stuff like that, but we looked after each other. But how I coped with it was, I guess, drinking. I drank on the job, and then I started doing drugs, because the drinking wasn't enough. And, I was fully functional, I never brought it home with me. I left it on the job, There were occasions when we'd go out with friends or over a friend's house, and I drank a lot. And then, she didn't come from that. So, even before 9/11, I will say I drank, but not abusively.
No.
I mean, I drank and tied one on. And for her, that was so foreign to her. She didn't grow up in that. So for her, that scared her. Now, remember, I was 24, she was 21 when we got married. We were dating. 9 months later, we got engaged, and we got married shortly after that. And we had a 4-year plan, at least I did in my head. And it turned into, I think, a 5-month plan. She got pregnant, and, my daughter Brianna was born, and the love of my life. I mean, understand, I was broken way beyond 9/11, and God was really proving to me that he was there and standing with me and would always be there with me. I mean, to the point where, I've never thought of suicide, never in all the trauma I've ever had thought of suicide, because I was raised suicide, you go right to hell, and suicide's a coward's way out. But I've always said, there but for the grace of God could go I. My dad said, I once complained I had no shoes till I saw a man with no feet, which kind of grounds you to the point where you say, you know what, I don't care what you go through. Yeah. You're going to get through it, because there's someone else that's going through a hell of a lot worse than you. So, throw your crutches away, whatever excuse you're using. You can start your day over. You can start your life over. You can recreate anything you want, especially in this country. Yeah. And this country has so many opportunities. So with that being said, that's how I raised my kids. Like, listen, I don't want to hear an excuse. My wife and I used to say to them, when they bickered and argue, figure it out, because they got to figure it out.
Right.
And when they didn't, we'd step in and we'd mediate and we'd have the final, and they'd say, but that's not fair. And we'd say, life's not fair. Get used to it. I've never candy coated anything. Never. I might have been a little more harsh, as you very well know, and we won't touch on that. But
We'll save that when you come back.
yeah, we'll save that for another. So my school of thought has always been is like, listen, you're gonna get through it, no matter how rough it is. I have a beautiful wife. I have a beautiful family. I'm blessed beyond measure. I really am. I mean, I've never chased money, and if I have, it was to pay bills. Yeah. It wasn't for any luxuries we had. I mean, me and my wife's been through it all. And listen, there's no shame in my game, and you know that. Yeah. I'm not embarrassed by anything I've done to the point up until now, because it's made me who I am. I've been through a bankruptcy after 9/11 when work dried up. We weren't raised to save money, put money. And when you're going from, hand to mouth every week and then doing side work, just keep your head above water so that my wife could be home raising my kids, because that's how I chose my life to be. Because, I didn't have that growing up. That's what I afforded my kids, the opportunity for their mother to be there for them, to raise them. And the assurance I had every day getting up at 4:30 in the morning, taking a train into Manhattan from Long Island, coming home sometimes 7:30, 11 o'clock at night, knowing that my wife, a good, godly woman, was raising my kids, and she never called me at work, never bothered me, because she knew I was doing what I had to do. The trust was there. And, my kids seen all that. And I hope they've taken from it. But I've never given them anything, even as far as, hey, you don't like that bike? That's great. You know what? You want a different bike? You know what? You do some chores, go around the neighborhood, collect cans or whatever you do, or you cut grass, and I'll pay for half. You got to have some skin in the game. Yeah. There's nothing free in life.
No freebies.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's how I raise them. Sometimes it's a little hard, but
But so is life. Life is hard.
Right. So what am I doing? Am I setting them up to, have this false sense of, hey, this is how easy life is? No, I'd rather you find out that, Dad and Mom were right. Life's not easy, but they equipped us to the point where, hey, listen, if I got to shovel manure, like if I needed to tomorrow, the first place I'd go to get a job is cleaning porta potties, because nobody wants to do it. Yeah. After 9/11, that's what I did. I said, I'm out of work. I'm ready to lose my house. I mean, we almost lost our house. I mean, I'm not joking. I mean, forget about the 2008. It was before 2008. It was, everything dried up for the industry. I said, I have to redirect my efforts. And I'm like, all right, well, what jobs doesn't people like to do? Because I'll do that and I'll be the best at it. And I went into concrete. I mean, in a union job, what I was doing was office furniture. The next best job next to that is working at the Jacob Javits Center, the shows. Mm-hmm. In the union job, the bottom of the scale is, they call them sand hogs. They're the guys that actually work in the ground, digging the holes for the tunnels. That's the best paid, steady work, but it's grueling. Above that is concrete. It's not easy work. It's hazardous work. It's heavy construction. And I happen to have a friend of mine, Wayne Fallon, he's a great guy, who actually had the opportunity, to understand my position, because I'm open like that. He's like, dude, I can get you a job doing concrete if you want to do concrete. He goes, and like my attitude was same as his. I can get you a job, you got to keep it. But he knew if he got me one, I wouldn't shame his name. And that's how I got into concrete. Yeah. And how I got into the union was this gentleman, Dave Lee, who was a member of our church, again, just another another super guy, someone that I look at and I would model myself around as far as the person that he is. He's a family man. He holds his kids accountable too. He's like, listen, my kid's got a job. I started charging him rent. This way, you give him a sense of,
Reality.
yeah, yeah. And he goes, listen, I don't need the money. I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it to, be an example. And, to this day, my kids, if they're on my phone bill, no, you're paying what it says yours is. We're not dividing it by 5. Whatever yours is, because you want the nicest phone. The same thing with the car insurance. Accountability. So this is what he taught me. So I had the opportunity to get a union job through a friend, but I needed to get into the union. So I called Dave and I asked him, and he said, absolutely. Now, if he didn't think I was a stand-up or at least, responsible person, he wouldn't have stuck his neck out. Yeah. And he did that for me, and he gave me the opportunity. Now, here's the other clinker. We're at Valentine's dinner that year, but you needed like $500 to start your dues. I didn't have 500. I didn't have 2 nickels to scratch together. And I was at the Valentine's dinner with my brothers and my sisters, and I was telling them the story. And my older sister, my sister Pat, was like a second mother to me, to the point where she helped me fill out applications when I was younger for jobs, college, whatever. And my brother-in-law Jimmy, her husband, turned around, and he's my older brother. Any way you look at it, he's my older brother. He's always been there. He's known me since I think I was 6 or 8. But, I mean, just a great guy. And he says, I'll give you the money. I said, no, I'll give it back to you. He goes, no, it's my gift to you, And at the time, I was married with 3 kids, doing flooring, doing sidewalk carpentry, doing what I had to do. But it was rough. Yeah. And that was really a turning point in my life. So, just having good people around you, people that know your character. And, again, that speaks again to my boys sitting at home, collecting money from covert. That wasn't enough because, you know what? Their character spoke to them to say we could be doing something.
And that was the example that you
absolutely. I mean,
I gotta say, you obviously you've had an extraordinary life, and a lot of it is your own personal conviction to overcome whatever obstacles. But going back to what you had said earlier, it's the company you keep, and it sounds like you've had a lot of angels around you. Absolutely.
Ones that I can't see and ones that are right in front of me. I never miss an opportunity to engage with people, and I also, as much as I don't read the room that well sometimes, I'm learning as I get older to understand, hey, listen, this guy is not listening to you. He's just, like there's a saying in New York, hey, how you doing? It's a hello. We don't really care how you're doing.
It doesn't matter how you're doing. Don't actually tell me how you're doing. That's weird.
Yeah. But, I'm leaving myself open, I guess, as I get older to give of myself in a way that, edifies and helps people and builds people up, because I think the world we're living in right now is in somewhat turmoil, but we don't have to be part of the problem. I think a lot of the solution is just us as individuals right now doing what we're doing right now, sharing our hearts, being vulnerable. Us as men, we feel this weight to, as you say, behind the smile, put on this face. And one of the, again, music, Billy Joel, we all have a face that we hide away forever. And we only take them out and show ourselves when everyone's gone. We break when no one's around. Why can't I break in front of you? Why can't I tell you, hey, listen, man, I'm having a rough time. I don't care what it is, I'm not here to judge. Right. I'm here to love you. You know what I mean? Especially if I call you friend, call you brother. Yeah. Whether it's porn, drugs, gambling, anything, and to help each other navigate through that, I guess, is the best thing, because we all have struggles,
Yeah.
you know, and the pressures that we deal with, you know, we look for an outlet, and for some people, it's never a good outlet. You know, the drugs weren't a good outlet for me, the alcohol. But, you know, it's like the drug dealer, you know, the first line's free. And then after that, once you're hooked, he knows you got you.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, you know, if we can create a place where guys can communicate and guys can talk and guys can share and build each other up. Because, you know, I'm in a men's group in the church I go to. And one of the things is iron sharpens iron, you know, and it's important for us as men to know, hey, listen, we don't have to have it together, but together we could get it together. You know what I mean?
That's very true.
So, I mean, I'm feeling a lot more lately in myself. I'm feeling moved to not only empower myself, but empower young men, my boys especially. All my daughter's phenomenal. She's a great mother, great wife. She puts too much on herself, but that's something she has to work on in herself, and just, you know, say it's okay. You know, my son Aaron, you know, he's a big dude, but he's a big mush too. You know, and I know he goes through the same struggles I go through as a young father. You know, just like my son-in-law Seth, married to my daughter. I understand that. I need to create a door that they, and I'm sure they know they could always come to me, and they do. Yeah. You know, my son Daniel, forget it. My son Daniel, after high school, went to college on his own. Something I wanted to do, but couldn't afford to. But he went on his own, and, you know, that's got to be scary. You know what I mean? It's not like you're in the military. We're in the military. Make sure you get fed. Make sure you do this. Make sure, you know, this is college. You know, it's a free for all. College don't care whether you pass or fail. Yeah. And he got through that. I mean, it was in a time when I had just gotten seriously hurt, so I really wasn't mentally there all the time. But I stayed on top of things, and I write everything down. I still have all the books. God forbid questions ever arise, you know, with student loans or anything. But, you know, a lot of times, like I said to him, he's like, what do I do with this? What do I do with that? I'd help him. But then once he reached 18, the college wouldn't let me intervene and help. Right. So at that point, I had said, I don't know, treat it like a school project. You know, do your research, do your diligence. And that was probably very scary for him. But, you know, we were never taught to balance checkbooks, never taught to this, that. And it's something just, I guess, as life goes on, you learn.
You learn as you go, yeah.
And then there's my son, David. He just moved out, 23, 2 weeks ago. And he's right around the corner from here, actually. And, you know.
So that's it. It's an empty nest now.
Yeah, it's just her and I, you know. And it's like, you know, I make 1 cup of coffee in the morning now instead of 2. Yeah. You know, I'm used to him, like, popping his head out because he worked from home, speaking about some, you know, his challenges at work and clients, and, you know, so, you know, it's a new norm now. So it's 2025, and I'm always inspired, you know, and I said at the men's meeting, it's not a reset. It's just another day to try and make ourselves better from the day before. And that's all we can really do. I mean, I told you I woke up this morning just in a pissy mood, and I was like, oh, great, you know, behind a smile, you know, and I thought I had a plaster one on, but I knew once, you know, I got into it and I engaged, you know, it takes me about 45 minutes to get my breathing normal in the day, you know, clear my sinuses and, you know, just collect my thoughts, you know, because it's a struggle. It's a struggle every day for everybody. It's not just me. I'm not just the one.
And it brings me to my final point with you, which is you're also a grandfather now.
Yeah.
You know, talk to me a little bit about, you know, legacy. How do you want to be remembered by your kids, and how has your role evolved now being a grandpa?
Well, right now, if I was to die today, I wouldn't want to be like shoot from the hip kind of guy like I used to be. Yeah. You know, like my wife always used to be afraid of what I would say in public. I've modified that quite a bit, and I'm working on that to bridle my tongue. But my legacy would definitely be I want them to say I was a good man. I tried my hardest, did my best, and put my worst foot forward, hoping for the best.
Yeah.
You know, my grandkids, oh, forget about it. I mean, every single one of them have a different, unique personality, just like my kids growing up.
Yeah.
And I told you that.
Yeah.
And, you know, I don't speak about my daughter a lot with you because initially you had your son,
Yeah.
but my daughter was never a problem. She was probably easy. If I was to say have a daughter, you know, have all girls, but then you got all, you know, teenage drama.
It catches up with you.
Yeah,
is what I'm hearing.
the boys, you know, the boys I could treat like boys, knowing that, you know, a Chick-fil-A owner wrote a book, you know, raise boys, don't heal men, meaning raise them right.
Yeah.
You know, raise them right. You know, give them a good swift kick in the keister if they need it. You know, it is what it is. You know. But my legacy, I think I don't plan on leaving much money to my kids. Hopefully, I'll be able to enjoy spending whatever little money I have. But no, you listen. I didn't raise my kids to be waiters neither. They're not waiting around for me and my wife to die.
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to help them in any way they could if they have any endeavors. You know. But I want them to understand the value of family, the value of friends, the value of truth, you know, because listen, one thing I'm not good at is lying, and she'll tell you, I can't lie to save my life. First of all, I can't remember a lie, so I wouldn't even bother.
It just gets
I can't
more and
even
more
remember
complicated.
Yeah, I mean, I have a hard time remembering the truth short term. Long term, I can tell you, you know, how many buttons my shirt had on it when I was in third grade picture or something like that. Being silly about that, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't need to lie. Listen, this is it. This is who it is. You know what I mean? What you see is what you get. And I've been told that from friends at work, and they say, Tom, one thing we got to say about you, and it's the best way I ever heard myself explained was, you're genuine.
Yeah.
What you're genuine, and I went, what do you mean by that? They say, well, what you see is what you get. You don't try and put on airs for anybody, because I don't really care. I've told you that 1,000 times. The Joneses, who the hell are the Joneses? Yeah. These people that chase this image of, you know, I gotta have, you know, a $3,000 pocketbook with $5 in it. Yeah. Believe me, when I worked for Sears and worked for myself doing flooring, I went in and out of people's houses. All types, all walks, from the projects to the Hamptons. And I see how people live. And I did get a sense of, hey, wow, I want that. Yeah. You know, I want the Christmas tree. Mm-hmm. I want, you know, the wife making cooking. You know, I knew what I wanted. Not that my mother shorted us in any way. They did what they had to do. But, you know, you always wanted for more or better. But at least I had an idea and something to strive for, you know. But people... I mean, I've walked into people's houses. They got $1 million houses with no furniture in it.
You got the BMW parked out front, no food in the fridge.
It's like I drive a Toyota Land Cruiser. Yeah. Listen, if I want, I can have a Suburban. Who wants a $900 payment? Yeah. You know, who wants this? Unless you could pay cash for it, God bless you. Yeah. You know, but to me, it's not your material things as much as what you surround yourself with, you know, the company you keep.
That authenticity is what draws people to you. It's what drew me to you. You know, when I was starting this little project, I was trying to get a list together of, like, you know, who's got a good story, who's somebody that not just has a good story, but that's somebody that I would really enjoy talking to. And, you know, I had your name in mind, and I swear, even 5 seconds before I spit it out, Mercedes was like, Tom. You got to get Tom. And I was like, you know, you're absolutely right. And, you know, you want to be remembered as a good man that did your best. I think that there will be no problem with that, man. I really do. And I can't thank you enough for coming and spending the time with us. I know the weather's been shit lately. This is not why we moved to Florida.
No, it's definitely not.
That's why you woke up.
Although
a
you
little
can
grouchy.
keep your 90 and 100 degree weather too.
Yeah.
I have trouble breathing.
But thank you, man. Thank you for
absolutely.
coming out,
And I'd be more than welcome and more than happy down the road if you ever want to invite me back.
I absolutely will.
You know, I
absolutely
got
will.
stories upon stories.
I know, which is why we block off twice the amount of time when you come in the office.
Well, you know, it's how I ask you about the topic because, you know, hell, I can ramble, you know. But,
Thank you, man. Thank you. I really appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, and I love the relationship we've cultivated.
Absolutely. You know? One of my, I'll end with this. One of my regrets, man, is I had left the practice in Windermere, and my wife and I, we were getting ready to open this place, and we walked into, I want to say it was Agave Azul, and I saw you, but I didn't know if you would remember me, and then, you know, you were with your family. I didn't, so I kind of was like, that's Tom, and I wanted to say hi, and I didn't because it was this fear of like, you know, this guy even gonna remember who I am, or
yeah, absolutely. No,
but
of course I would.
You know, we got to hang out, man.
Yeah,
and I got to meet Beth. I would love to.
Yeah,
meet Beth.
well, you know, it's so funny. Beth said, "Wait a second, your dentist wants you to talk on his podcast." I said, "Yeah." She goes,
"That's weird."
Why? I said, "He's not just my dentist.
He's my pal."
I said, "When I go there, I look forward to
dude, we have tons of fun, man.
chilling, laughing."
You've got my cell phone number.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. Oh,
it's a
well,
friend.
you know what's so funny? When I had that issue with the tooth, you know, I remember I said, wait, I got Hector's phone number. I'll call Hector.
Yeah.
And remember we jerry-rigged something, and I said, listen, just for the time being. He's like, I never did this. I said, if you're going to do it on anyone, I'm the guy.
I remember
You know,
that.
I had my ear torn off from playing golf. My son took half my ear off. I was teaching him how to swing, and I didn't get away in time. He took half my ear off. So at work, I told my boss, I said, listen, I got to get off tomorrow. I got to take those stitches out. He goes, I'll take them out for you. And I went, all right, but don't take them out with the knot this way. You got to pull the knot first. And he's like, you really want me to? I said, I don't care.
Give it a shot.
Yeah, so I took him.
That was similar to the tooth, man. I remember it vividly. I was like, Tom, look, man. This part is not supposed to go in there, but
I said, just for the time being, don't worry about it. Yeah, man, I don't care. Listen, I'm third world country kind of guy.
Thank you, brother.
You got it.
Thank you, man.
Be well. It's always a pleasure.